Very good afternoon, everyone. Nasi topic si BGC 105 American Literature ko. Adugi last unit oiduni we torokiba ko we ngasina unit 4 hai batare ko unit ahum ma pini nagre discuss sobre ko. Nasi ki jina block 1 Arthur Miller ki All My Sons hai play to American kaitare drama haitare ko very good example of American drama. Madugi last unit oiduni ko. Aduna nasi topic sina All My Sons Characterization character major characters in duga minor character kharaga moigi characters ka mine analyze to ya ke ko moje karam khani character no moigi driving force ka no ko moigi aims moigi ambition moigi personality ko moje karam khani mean no ha so ying du ne ko akoina sida exam da kai da character analysis kuma hanga kadi am na kana ka to lecture ne ha bitare ko. So today's topic BZC 105 American Literature block 1 Arthur Miller's All My Sons ko drama do you mean aduga unit 4 duni All My Sons Characterization horoscope. So the second topic sida we objective set. In this unit we will be discussing the development and significance of all the major characters ko major characters lo dimo wiki Chris ko the Joe Geller ko the Anne Deaver the George Deaver ko mo we discuss already aduga the development and significance of the minor character who Dr. Hoyawi got sida ko Dr. Mind Pisu if I remember correctly so minor characters mo jo dum important no habitare comparatively habitare ko we major characters kadi mo je compared to yar obviously ko do when mo jo important no ba puzzle du gi part ne thai yadare ko when the puzzle am solve to ganda a big part of pieces whatever ko me am no important no ba whole when bakanta yam na mo some sagi role no play to bidana ko minor characters in Chicho, Maki Rolom, later. So, we understand to the Katai minor characters in the Kanakano, as well as Mogi, roles in the cricket, Yangsika. Major characters, the Hanorzi, Yanan, but obviously, the most important character, Joe Geller. Magi analysis Haninsico. Joe Geller, manufacturer, that must be already know why Mamang elected to Spangre, as a Magi company or business avatar factory in Highway. And central figure in All My Sons has a moral perspective no larger than the fence that surrounds his factory or his own house. Sigizinam haning is a Joe Keller ki magi priorities habitare ko. Magi aims a magi family, magi immediate family habitare magi macha magi nupi ko ma samki matuki chakut na ba habitare as well as magi luxurious over lifestyle and happy over financially secure over hairke ko. Lifestyle to maintain to no na bu ne magi kaitare aim in life habitare ko. Sida mana by book or group habitare ko mana by ane ka tiraga magi imung ji dungai horaga lore habigi magi wakalo na malay masina maram oiragani magi downfall gi so what reason mo itu ko so mana pamize magi moral perspective se habidi meam gi phana budu na tebo magi imung gi pharaga lore ko ai gi mung noiraga lore ai pisa pairaga lore ai gi sa sing the best education for the best life at the provide to lore I pido around lore na trap we pisa water lore having mentality malaya so killers on the maram organi mana magi actions in ko dictate to so characterization in jita motivation je kari no have to yor kani ni tare ko so killer na mana to ke actions have tare mana kari kari to ki ko ma chi to bi do whatever kari to because magi moral perspective se to kimatic big crave ko magi paglam habitare ko fence habitare ko dagi atu bungam te man urise magi pikraba magi social when kan magi nuclear family to har ko nuclear family mai masani budi unfortunately is going to die in the war to the khanga bani ko mai sa ba Chris Harji mai pin Harji ko mamaga moi ohum jidana magi the world gum bane micro habitare ko micro world gum bane on ma atopa the good of the many outweighs the good of the few heavy concept mo the yaute ko ai nuai lore ai par lore ai mung nuai lore si wa khlon jine ko aduna ai gi mung nuai na ko na bada ai gi mung phana ko na bada ai nuai na ko na bada ai ma je tabon ko ko to ni habi mo ni masin thiba ko mama na bada blame to sun ba si we ko khang ba to ko ai ma na Steve ta ban to bi to ko o dei di yamna phazada ba haiba tare ko yamna ma gi nam tha to ba betray to my friend who betray to entire government the women in mana government gi war efforts to mana the profit when you entire land kana ba for the future of humanity harakin for the future of the country and to nei ta jo Keller di magi aim je ai bisa power lore ai company se flourish tower lore ko chokol hour lore si de my mentality. Next king ko next point. Joe Keller, not a selfish, disagreeable, or greedy industrialist, an ignorant, good-natured, and kindly fool whose love for his family is genuine and unselfish. Although, sida jo amu analysis sama to baka di yemi ko. Joe Keller yamna phattaba mana thawinki haiba tare ko example of pirake. Magi cylinder heads haiba tare my company na manufacture to cylinder heads to beraka haiba tare ko problematic oiba. Madu mana mai mama ba Steve Diverga, mabani to Steve Diverna di by ko is a problem am lere ko leb kan story adum yo to ko to hain ha kan da Joe Keller na ma na du yo laga ki pilot kun mathoi 21 pilots ko adum ki death to mana ko sto ni di khangu na te ngai ko sine ma ge so bam de man o ai na sigi cylinder head se man yo to lore sine maram mo raga ki army ki pilot have tare ko army na kun mathoi Sidoni ko habiti adu plan toraga mana sinaba ina mana yunbudi na teba just magi lore ko magi paisa ta lore lore sidani to gi ne on kitang greedy we bida ne magi say he's not a murderer but mi hat pam dina te but indirectly magi actions in na pilot kun mathogi mathwai mang bugi action di oigi ko adu na magi paisa pam budagi cho ai ko yamna greedy we budagi karamba hai ko Karamba industrialism or Budagi, Magi Don for the Latunia. So Magi family, Magi Macha, Yamazana Lutori, Manako, Magi B, Yamongana Tami, Habitat, got Maje society, very important member, more in the Fonase, got Adubu, Maze, Magi Subizi on the lake, shortcomings Habitat, on the Magi Subizi, Magi Grid, Seko, Magi. Family first, having my mentality, society, nation, Dumiantaki, I family, no matter I did give family secure or safe or having my mentality. Cinema Morgan, down for more in the record. Next point up. Joe Keller in his 60s is an amicable had the meet in Abu personally the Hargalico. I have the means, free and frank, but kind of the museum. I am the friendly of nature, amicable. One person who loves social life. So, Sidapina Kangwia is a Joe Keller, he's not a cold hearted killer. Got me heart game. I Pisata Lore, Mui Sivasi the Bukandi, Adugi mentality did not deal Joe Keller. And they go, Magi Swibble, Magi shortcomings lay, but Maze, Mihatpani, murder any habity, Mazi directly habity Mazi Yaro. Hoi, Magi extend the Maram Oraga, Nahaku Matway, go Armigi, will lay it to the Mana, Kona, my accept a week, go, accept Organimana last Magi extreme step, Logido, Adubu, Mana, Magi, cylinder heads, Yolaga, Nahaku Matu, Hatoki, and a dog with that kid. Adumutin. And I got my bisal paloge, my company to secure hoge, my imundo prosperous or hoge habit mentality that also given him. So he's a fool habitat, a kindly fool in the mental. Next slide, lexical. Self-made man with no education to fall back upon manages to set up successful business after 40 years of hard work. So, Shida Akunyam interesting or idea American dream have a company. American dream have to say quickie American singer ko moigi mentality makalamani moina thase ko America the land of opportunity ni na when hard working oira when honest oira when dedication ulagadi success have to say dum su na phangani have gi thazna bam lay auna Joe Keller je magi education to fall back on register ka ju ente ko mana my company the wana 40 years of hard working matunda man like pulam gi bane. So, Masina Maram where the never mana cylinder has a yon big factor because mana yam no wana Semgat Sagatsagi Habitareko, Magi company to Mana Ninghara Katra, Aina Hadaki Army commissions Habitareko, Amiga business dogs when the cylinder heads provide to you have a community plane Habitareko, aircraft Habitar, cylinder heads provide to you have China provide the whole drugadi. Ai companies Mutpatari and Kalaga, Madui Kalaga Mana, cylinder heads so Beratowi. Hairline fracture yawi and the mana to because Joe Keller my hard work to mang the dynamite pakacham. Samaji justify to begin at my action to justify to Bunate, but Magi reasoning to see me happy one analysis of Kando. So I know Sukwana. So he 40 years hena. Kanna Honaraga, Aigi company, Aigi factory habitarego. In Kanda Honaraga factories if it smoothly run to Nova, Honorable Kanjida. 100 key cylinder heads your Udragadi, Agi company say Mutpatare. aduna I cylinder head se hairline fracture le raga ju ke su ta wila ko adu maina maina tu mentality lo khalu bodagi ma se sata bane taking of the man cylinder head su yolure yom du da hairline fracture so bunina hairline fracture yaw bunina ko cylinder head sta problematic ore adu ga maram oraga alet kun matu shi odagi the case on ko to ma di lai bu phatna nang thak to ga haiba tare ko ma di bribery ko ke to ra mana jail sa hongre but my business partner Steve Diver have to the jail sa gidwe ne that much we already know why mama ki lecture to so next loving father to his sons ko Chris and Larry ko we already know Chris na and longing ba pa to ni ko proposal ni pa na to the Larry's na level ti na landa society people so they lost in the war high con society that mamang lecture to high but lost one of them in the war we says he had no sons so that he could not have to send them to war to mana magi masa singja to kimati nungsi je aduna lan la pakan da moi lan chakrabani na Chris chalini Larry chalini ko lagu thi ba haiba tare aduna Larry di yamala roi Chris pudi mara bu padna mai mun ko aduna mana asai gi sa se pom resu phaga to kan khanse ko mai ko khalo taking no the lan to chalani da bagi aduki matik mai masa singje mala lu no ni yamna section na ko kai de so yi da ge ha to ye ga thanin ko de mai masa singje on the lan chaki ka ma de am was a family man Keller has great concern and affection for his wife yes again magi wife Ket Keller have that ko mai husband the zumane am lu to say Ket ki wa ma ya mun tai aduga Ket ki opinion the zumaya na support to we kai na ba kan da ma kha da ko example bi concerned about his wife's sentiments, does not want his son to get married to Anne, as Kate would not approve. Sidahining is a Joe Keller na, magi wife, Kat shake adukimatic mana lumna losoba haibata ko mana yam tina lumna losoba man magi wata zodo na maram muraga magi masanu pa Krishna and lohong ninge haiba katu bukta Kristuna and lohong bodo Joe Keller support ko to indeba because agi wife as well as Christian mama have tareko and support of the ne adu ma support of India so Joe Keller have say magi wife ki wa yam san tazaba have tareko magi wife to ki full support pang ma ju full support of the pa mane so magi family life to the Joe Keller seems to be have tareko seems to be what sinake to be the perfect father to be the perfect husband adubu magi asoiba me amalai ko society ki level ta nation ki level da haibata ko atuga maki business ki level da haibata maki friendship ki level da ko imung manung da di ma yam da phai masalu na tawi mai na bi yam nungai na thami ko atu Joe Keller ki suiba me am mujulai mana maki business to mut ki tare ai na mana manipulate to ba ko maki friend to mana betray to ba adu me am mujulai ko so to Joe Keller the most important thing in life is family his children his sons and his wife. Next slide, Laxi. In spite of the geniality and warmth, tragic flaw in Keller's character allows him to betray his partner, Steve Diver. I should hide some important. Maze surface level da when I am study to Bokando. Yam na babu paba. Yantare ko magi imung manung bu yam lu to ba masa sing bu to ba wife raw raw tamba ko oira ga zu magi subam zule magi subam zikari no bokanda mana case to thangal bokanda magi cylinder heads ki berato wi ke thangla kanda mana magi friend Steve Diver as well as magi business partner have tare ko adu mana betray to ai jail jangmi mo to nang jang na ba have ki mo to mana plan to we nang tare ko asing magi di hena daita hai tare ko responsibility tragic flow to get asubi to ki ko magi cylinder heads yolo bagi asubi ja hena chauna sui ji kana no haira gati Joe Keller ne ba Steve Diver na di haise ko we is a berato kumali here and pressure yawi kholi ona yological jab kana Joe Keller na man ne ba yo jalo kisu to boy ko adu problem kisu to boy adu yolo jaga de company mo patare ai to man convince to ga Steve Diver de yo han ne adu ga kona da sata ban hai patare ne ko jail samna Steve Diver na chamora ga Joe Keller na scot free du ne scot free hai patam sinar ge ko ma free as a free man ne le adu ne ba adu mun chang ko proud of the fact that self-confidence, guts, and proof document of his innocence have gradually allowed them to forgive him. Oh no, society is missing them. Maze, magi soy is man san consider kazuko. Maze case thing or gazu tamna. Joe Keller is my land away kind of mean a column than heavy mount of my walk in the Malaysia. Oh no, Joe Keller is a mana dum. Oh, I have managed to have that win over people haiba tare ko mi sing mana convince of ngam me ko ma je innocent oi ko le ha da ma proud je even though deep inside ma masana khangi na ko sida la le se handaki dasa ta ba sida haiba tare ko handaki angang ko ma thoi le ki da ba ko ma gi cylinder heads no maram moraga already casing naraga Steve Divernan jail changi se sida changham thoi ba responsibility lobam thoi je mani ma masana di khangjai ne du mana jail changham da bagi ko ma je innocent oi na proof hang bagi yamna nuai ba phojai adun ta padi ma gi just soiba in that ko soiba kar le ko my characters. Next up, having wronged Steve Dever still shows his concern for him, asking George about his health and whether he still has the old heart trouble. Aduna Steve Dever do mana lale di khangi ko mana to action ja asu bani have to Joe Keller masana khangse adubu friend ni na ko mana Joe Keller na Steve Dever gi damakta numai ta ba ko kamai to ri me ba to kan ga haibe mong da hangbi mong da to se even though jail changali je mana maram chu mo re chu. So deep inside have tare ko in the corner of his heart have tare Joe Keller na my friend Steve who magi maram da khandi da na te adubu ai changoi mo to nang changwa have ne ai ngauge nang siu have gi mong de to ko adubu mana concern kra di ule su u ta na te tare ko. Next slide laksi. Confronted by Chris, is compelled to reveal the truth of the case. Keller gives account of entire incident of the supply of defective cylinder heads to the army, implicating Steve Dever as the main accused. Sineba. Ona Chris na last ang pagkanta. My father dabo. Achumbo to kang niyan ang pagkanta. Keller na achumbo to hadirap to niya. Yes, ay na maram mo gani. Nahaku matuloy lagi trito. Steve na natin. Responsibility died to any loan token ko have kan antai ko ona sigi defective oiba airline fracture yawa cylinder heads in the army di yon baki chungba died to say any loan to have sig Keller na ko na mai msa department sing to antai ko ona mana died to mana responsibility to escape to ka jail sa hoda ba chai ahum ki mam to ko mana case to ga changra bani ko Steve Dever at this point in time ko sing to ga o to mana ko na di mani aina lan ba to mana ko sing to listen ko. To justify his acts, says he had supplied defective cylinders to save the family from bankruptcy. Otherwise, would have to discard defective cylinder heads, and as a result, business that took him 40 years to build would collapse in seconds. Sigis name, Portinoichigo, Masidani, Maimson Pan Yam in a South Chico. Mana justify to no neighbor. Aina, I Berato Rokani, problem Narakani, Kangna, cylinder heads, you won't give it all. Marandi kay no habakanta aina maduda yolhorum dragati ko aina yolhodre khalase badu matamda ko adu di ai company to bankrupt ho habedi samang ko mut ba habe tare ko company to or factory to have that ko manufacturing plant have tare ko mut ki ai adu I khalaga to bani have mana justify to ko ni sida ne ba Krishna yamna ka hena mana ma thoi nuwa ri ko mai mapa je man ana yam wang ba thak to thamsaram ko my father si amna pedestal am da have tare ko awang thak to thamsaram ma pa je magi idea of his father have this clean cut have honest idea ko my father is the my father is my hero with the concern ko na my father na aina defective cylinder heads you to kai na kanda we mung gi ngai na bani we mung kala gi ngi bani to justify to na ba honora ko da Krishna muken na mathwai no ri thamoi se kai ba have ko okay man hai aina sahi ni pu hena sangna sengala khiba ai company do Madudo a mangam doing I negolum dragati and I am. As the name Krishna o business profit na wiki father da business profit na hena maru in a kaleko wiki nation gi youth budi ko wiki army budi in a kalaga Christmas among the other tamu soke to inhabit that because Christmas also army the army in Tareko Aduna army the Obukanda Chris Sumagi regiment to habitare ko magi squad habitare ko squadron habje ko o the yamna close over bond na same give them yamna respect le na yam nushi jana loyalty ma le give them on na mana sunda mai opana oh aina yoli do sa gi dum ai mungi khalagani aduna ai mungi dum ai lo ko le to justify to ko kanta Krishna du ki mate toy no ai gi de next slide so patung tarak pada Chris Keller ki character mu analyze ko bahut achha son of Joe Keller is a 32-year-old, well-built man who loves to keep himself informed of latest publication of books and never misses to read the book section of the newspaper, though he never buys those books. aduna Chris Keller jina jai kuntra ni sure ko at the time of the drama have ta ko awna maze khabar gyam na pasaba and ta ko like kam tam ngi am interest le sabun pa nem ko maze is a very good man have ta ne ko aduna maze apaba ni have ta ko sa ma mi on the land to ko ta du ma have ko awna 32-year-old man ni ko aduna aduga maze mazu land yoromi in the battlefront was called Mother McKellar in his battalion because he cared for everyone and was kind and sympathetic towards them. And sigi jida pina yam interesting about revelation am thing ko because somda na magi father na Chris Keller gi father na somda paisa na maruni paisa na priority ni ko profit na priority ni ai gi family na priority ni na mana somda khalaga magi imungi nuai na khalinge da defective cylinder heads for you ne my own father na ko adubu Christy from the even nickname of the Mother McKellar has got taken home kanda mana magi battalion to the have the magi mahadali have we get army soldiers have a on the man when yamna luan to we yamna support to we he was very close with them magi soldiers come on the maze magi soldiers in respect to yamna pung pane ko kino kanda magi personality to mana my soldiers we are the Luna Topa, Jackson, Senazabako. Even he was given the nickname Mother McKellar has done it. Sincere love for Anne makes him protective towards her, forcing him to argue with his mother several times whenever Kate tries to discourage their marriage. Oh no, Krishna and with the single my character, Mana Magi Mamaga, don't cut name. Why come have that because Magi Mamana di Chris can end the home was a supam pam deal. That he might know have a kanda and Gahana Kanazar Misa, Chrisky man was name. And my brother have that my brother's name. Larry's name. Oh, now, gate now, Aduma with Magi delusion Magi order about have that. We told about Wakalam Limonda, Magim San Larry said. No one the no, the Halakini have a given Tazabam with Kate. Adubu a reader of the even top character and when the Kangel. There is Halaro helps, as a Lake Tree helps. On a sonda, Chris and Gana, Luhombagi plant of Ganda, Kane and Swam Bamdale. Because Aman Luhombergati, in a weird way, have a record. There is Domina discard of Nikan Kanzamazan and on a Kate and the Chriska and relationships with Swam Bamde supports on the because Kate now ends that. Larry landing him because no one no one takes on Larry to Halakini and Kena to my walk Magi delusional over my walk on the day. Aduna Maramurka, Krishna and Kizarubanina, Kriska, Mamaga, Dum, why come to Maramam way of my relationships and the my relationships. Yareko. Next slide, let's see. An idealist. Chris feels guilty of surviving the war when many of his friends died sacrificing their lives in the war for some noble cause. Oh no, Chris is never man my Mapaga, Yanadaba Malapu Kalunduko. Chris the idealist never mankale. Okay, I give Mahada labor soldiers in Namuna Hawaii Tagi by Havatako. She is a Malebaki the Mata. Society to the Mata, country to get the Mata, nation to get the Mata cost. What do we need in Kanzebo? On the man, no is the boy. I know we know. I give soldiers in Namuna Yana noble winner. Atona Marines at Ulaga. Like Hawaii Tagi, ID Aduna Hote, ID Hinobi, on among the noise of survivors, guilt have a direct map house. Saiju Moigi Tata, the Dragatika and Kanzabto, Ona Mazu Mankale, Aina, I give him is for a greater cause at that. So Marama with the Putra and the man of Kanzabto Pani. On top of the my Mapaga, Joga, Kriska, personality, Yam Kenaba Jagale. Some the Jona, I know my priorities. My imong waiba, satamba, my company sokatpa. Christian Kaino, Amaliba Kitamata, Motherland Kitamata, nation Kitamata, for the greater good of society Kitamata, not the Tinaraga, Toy Tabu, the palms of Christian. Ona Mani Bukanda, Christian wise double power. Saiju Aiki, brothers ga, Aiju Aiki, soldiers singa, Hawaii, Taminaranga Niko and Kanzabio. Feels the same seeing selfish people struggling for monetary gains. For Chris, the soldiers' lives were let down in vain because it did not change the world. On the mana, Hingaga, Mayum Pukanda, Yam Nikai Pause Mana. Kangdi Gomadi May Mapagi, a saying Bamagunduma Kangring it, Anasunda meetings, Pesagi the Mata, yamna phattaba phandaba masen haiba tare na society da ko pisa na hena priority piba noble level cause amagi dong ta hingdaba je krishna uba kan yamna no haijate ko mana son aigi soldiers sing aigi brothers in arms haiba tare ko mayam na moya thawai thagriba moina mogi thawai mogi precious life to moina sacrifice to give to kem kanaram le to ko kan ko mo khanjaba mi hoy because mana nem bana kanda mi sing to isada ngauba isada focus to ba ri wakal to kongam te Chris's influence on her husband Jim Bayliss upsets Sue because he tries to encourage Jim Bayliss to give up medical practice in order to pursue a higher calling in medical research. This is important. Magi neighbor ni Dr. Jim Bayliss is Dr. Nico. Dr. Jim Bayliss Krishna influence torka magi medical practice yamna lucrative oiba lucrative agadi pisa yamna thokpa hebniko pisa yamna thokpa medical practice to Krishna maunda dohaning yaba because medical research torka society habitat ko mayam gi panaba for the greater good habitat pisa ta no budi Chris ki wakaloni ko mapagi yamna kenai ko si matang to Chris tadi ko pisa yamna tan ba adui muhutta samas ki apaba thabak to ne important ne khanjay awna Chris ka mai mapaga George ga yamna kena jaga yamna hai do ko awna somda sudi madiyam luxurious ba yamna nungai ba punsi me hingin banina sudi ma Chris ju sawewa nang na igi husband injalaka ko ai ka ma se medical practitioner to to nang medical research to ni do kari no kai ha ka ma sojei sudi because sudi my husband is ata ali mo ngai do in do ko awna Jim Bayliss ma samak su pa me medical research ka to ko samas ki phanaba kitang kana ba to ba kai se Jim Bayliss ma samak su pamje ko ada Christian influence of no bona jai ba adubu Jim Bayliss Dr. Jim Bayliss ki pi sujina di madu pamte songning ye ba antai ko next slide la siko accusing Chris of being a hypocrite Sue is of the opinion that Chris wants people to sacrifice their comforts for the sake of principles while Chris himself takes money from his father's business sida never soon I mean is ko soon na why ba khonjina ko Chris is a hypocrite in lawe ba kari gi no ba kan maram je nang na agi husband Dr. Jim Bayliss sabatare ko se magi lucrative oi pisa thokpa medical practice to halaka medical research na to na nang na advice p adubo nang na sadi ngi father gi business ai pisa lawra gi ingini ngai ko adun takpudi nang na pisa ta laga agi husband na samasi ka tho nang nungai na hinga ga habatare ko nang na yamna nungai na yamna comfortable oi punsi me hinga ga agi husband na nang nangi punsi to ka tho aduga medical research to haibasidi hypocrite ne haiba hypocrite haigadi haiba nama haiba ado isana haijari ba isana preach story do isana follow to ne hypocrite ado ne sun hais mai wakalo ni ko suge agi husband na nang medical research to hai medical practice to jaraga pisa thanjaba do aduga nang na sadi nangi father na som the company de kai de torga pisa tan do adigi nang nu hai ni au tak din nang se nang na sana haijari ba do na sana follow to the ban pani na sun kan jai Chris yantai ko khatas The immense faith Chris had in his father does not allow him to accept his father's guilt despite having a vague idea about the fraud committed by him. Masini ay nang sayo mamang kitang panre ko. Chris na magi mapaze yam na awang thakta thumse. That is still on the thambay with ko kasi siya. Na mazu angang mo tina drop nila ko 32 years old ni mazu. Na mana kangye. Ay ki father na so iba tabak ama to yam si ingit haiba tare. Kante ko vague oiba yam na clear with the bahar ni ko vague oiba agadi. Kabu haitare ko idea am delay my father gi tanda adubu mana magi father se amna ko minion khalubani na magi haramba magi side to ubangam gi de ngai ko man ai father yam ko mi ai father yam ko pani na khan gi bani na my father na soyang gani haiba gi chinga delay ba adubu soire han hekte exact na haiba ding am to man soiram mu da haiba tai mai wakhalu to na sum khan adu ni in Chris's opinion Steve conveniently puts the blame for his misdeeds on Keller, but his plans fail. Chris' opinion is okay. Koi father da Steve Diverna, koi father da blame. Do Nandan gito buda. Magi plan so ya kita bagi mama sa jil san ki haji. Yang tai ko. On ta ko di Steve na Chris na kansari je ko. Agi father di innocent ni. Ko mo na case na wakanda Steve na mai father blame to mo na gibani. Adubu maya padi land bagi jail sang hong ni aduga Steve si jail sang gibani my plan so fail bagi na Chris na dwana khalle aduna Chris ko opinion yan tare ko next slide relax Chris trusts his father and considers him as an infallible. Infallible haragadi, somebody who makes no mistakes. Father figure, and is shamed by the arguments given by his father in order to justify his actions. Oh no, this is important. Chris na di my father. I'm trust those. I'm a pro meaning. Oh no, mana my hima pasinaga sumaina. Sing but the habit I go. Sing but the my father get sing but nature je ko na kang pagkata mo. I'm na numay sa daw. I'm na pensa daw. I'm ikay bang pause man ko. Oh, ay na di wanang je. I'm na wang mo tako thong daw. I'm a pro meaning. Ko imong kita mo kanjaba as a loving father, a loving husband, and a kaludo. So on the nang to me am jidi in torgaman on the young pain get away. I'm ikay bang paugi but lord tight. Ko drink. On the my father na oh ay na to rido. Maram do sini ko ai company say in fu hena sangna 40 hena sangna single lopodo mukil na to company na man justify to no honor ko kanda krishna mukena no achta bom phawe kai lobo kanda ma masama krishna sama la nyaru pam sani auna la nyaru do man la marak tu ra punya to da man o somda na singjina country ki damakta nation ki damakta thawai tharaga so society ki damakta ta for the betterment of society ha ta toroga so na gi father na Isana hena, we Isana hena Maru in the Kalamiko and Manan Waisaki. Next point Next point While Joe cannot see beyond his family's dining room table, Chris feels a sense of unity with the Masiniko Mamang to point open idealistic with Chris. A purpose had to one color, one winner. You ever give good season? Katol Heavens Yakuda, some asking for another corner to the yung nung kan dia din Chris na kan say ba adubo ay mapadi madugi opposite ne ay mo nung wa hor lore ay mo nung zara hintragal lore pisa pa hor lore kan ne na Chris ka Joe ka kona thang dai ba dai ko loram dai di play di loram dai di am na chobo falling out na tu ne because Chris na kalami wa kan duba magi father no as the sing na magi father gi mong do khang pa kan da ya na mai jata ba ya na pens to por ni ba ente ko katas Chris sees a wider responsibility beyond that of a family. A human commitment. Ashamed of his father being involved in a criminal act while he was fighting in the war, and the men under his command were dying daily in the war. Chris namana kona mapadna magi actions to justify to no honor pagkanta. Christy sondako madi ma imong nung gidang kanba na tiyo Christy. Society gidang as a human being amoy na ko human being amoy na ay gitaw si karino. Imong nung gidang luar bra. Nothing. I action things Samas ki society ki fun about nation do you fun about humanity ki namak fun about tabakar to ko ne kanjab no mane mate am na idealistic which so na adu maina kanjaram no padu na mahaki mapana magi own father no ko priorities e imun dang biramba priorities e profit biramba ko focus se my company mutragal lori na khalam bakan Lori, my company, Mutragal Lori, and a Kalambaki, Mana, Asuiba, Beratoba, cylinder heads to Lombakata Krishna, Yana Pin the one pause, Ikai was a poem. Oh, I give own father now. Besagita Makta, indirectly, soldier could not Halimiko, in Manakana Green last. Then the Mana command over land, fight over it up, Mana land yawing it up, Sonda Nahasing Duna, but why cut the Nako, Nutigi got. Fighting for what? Fighting for humanity. Society is a humanity have a humanity have a git among the cause. Around the key of some of the Bible, nothing it up. Some of the Namaji own father Namabe, Popi Mapana. Besagi the Makta, Dukumba criminal action to Romato, Christian noise the one pot on you. Next slide. Next, we get Gallery. Cat Keller's na Chris ki mama, Chris Kalerika ki mama, aduga Joe gina wife. Cat Keller is kind, affectionate, and motherly. Joe miko si miyam sa maki Joe apaba qualities rin. Like her husband, Keller, si the Joe Keller have niko. Cat is jovial. Jovial hai gani jepun makata yam happy go lucky oiba. Yung tayo ko. Na cat open oiba, friendly oiba do man din sir. Warm and a friendly neighbor, welcoming everyone home. Aduna cat ki Zuma ki Joe. Wait, Magi is a shortcomings curly, a do mas, I'm not going to be here. And they go, oh, pay, got it up, say, me is a young open with a got mind over the opinion. My husband, the Maria man. Animal, wait, my husband, he crime though. Get no samples per continue. A woman of enormous maternal love, extending her affection beyond her two children to George and Anne, has firm belief Larry, who was reported missing in World War II, survived the war and would eventually return home. Oh no, magi masadagi hindotana. George ke Anne the yamna luna to man. Yes, and the crystal home to the mana pamsade because no matter no modi, my son pam Larry to halakini and a convegin do. Yateko. Adu magi motherly affection, magi motherly mama mo ki habetareko. Maternal love se mana, my masadi hindotana, George ke Anne the Jayman. Magi delusion habitare, magi soiba wakalun habitare ko. Karino habakanda, my sanpa legidrom sanpa to habitare ko, lanta legidrom sanpa lerize. No umatra no malakini naman tase. Matuna zumara moira ganeva. Sontamana, Chriska and the engaged store get luhong ke habakanda mana, magi ayapa people no mshis. Hanganiko, expert. Belief in astrology keeps her hopes of Larry's survival alive. Haibadi mana mai masan pahalakani haibagi ko on the cold hard proof level natin on the ma pangi natin on information ma pangi natin just astrology that has a haibadi basis to physical strong basis sama like dio mana mai masan pahalakini mai masan paleri je no matra no halakini haibagi mana thazabagi maram ja yamna evidence ama some proof level natin astrology thazaru Quando não mais delusional ou aquilo não leio que é que isso não me entende. Excuse me. Links Anne's arrival to the Keller home with the storm that had snapped the apple tree planted in Larry's memory, thinking it was a sign of something significant. So, in the Lapakanda, no one in Laka, apple tree amako, Larry magi memory the Tazaki apple tree to today by the storm on top of the mana, my walk in the Nico, mana Sakatsa Habitarico, and Lize, and Diver Lize, a toba significant way but chains, Mamagi Munda Puri having Mantascom labor. Yes, Uzupuri, Porte have zero. Mana Puri, but chains to Mana Columbus minor chains, so Latina Calvadra Adu to be but a toba something significant of chains, Malakuri have Mana Kalubudo to be sumeba because in the Maramorg and Lapagidi, my brother. George Lani, George Lapagidi, and the Losalamba, Kangalam the information, Katumi and I do to Renako. Atuka lasta, it will lead to the unfortunate suicide of Joe Keller. Sidikui Hana, Warido, in a proto, Skasokan the Ogre Nicotan. Kate has several arguments with Anne and Chris, trying to persuade them to believe that Larry would return someday. Oh, no. Kate na may masanpa Chris ka, duga may masanpa Mushinaza habitat relationship and argument Mayama Toy. Kinobukanda and the Chris Kana gave blessings Pami for to go forward to their engagement, to their wedding, Adubu, Kate Nadimana, Lady no Matum Halakini in the mana, and the Chris is a long hunting table. What do they call? Because in the Lariga Matama relationship. Asks what makes her believe Larry was still alive. Says that certain things have to be, while certain things can never be. The sun has to rise. This is something which has to be. Shiniko, sida neba ki magi delusional oi hari do sida proof am leke. Kari gino Larry je no mat no halakini have ki thasa so chena Larry je ham kanda lakam thopugini halakam thopugini have. Habidi som the kid the proof am leke. Agi san pa halakam proof sini ai san pa halakini have ki proof am sile evidence am sile have se ke masada le banati. Just halakum topuna no much comedy halakini have a wakalon to them. And Asu Wakalon have a Aduna, so the in the Chris Kanamodi relationships the next level, not the next step to get over Kanda. Larry Halakini Hazi. Larry Halakini have a guitar in Madame Jaka no Kandana. The Mitsizu no Numikodingi rise to Wotavani. It cannot be explained, but Mikodingi rise is at the minor, there is no more to know the Halakini justified to the delusional over my workload. Kanganiko. Next slide. Not enthusiastic about Anne's visit to their house, reason being the hostility of the neighbors towards Anne's father, Steve Deaver, was found guilty. Madi Anne Lakani Habakanda Kya Noa Pautil. Madam Diki Habakanda in Mapa Steve Deaver, which is jail lady Boko, Hana Joe Kellerga, business partner. Steve Diverge, Mogi never sing the Zunushi table. Happily, as long number more. I didn't country in the go. When Steve Dibber had a big time now, Steve Dibber number more than go, you have good not relate to one when it's able. On the end, has down Steve Dibber, give some pinnacle, like Bukanda Mo, never sing very can guitar, very like the never sing reaction to command or to Kandamina, get na, and say my name the lap to Kia Palm with them, my Harry. Next point. Aware of her husband's crime, Kate asked Chris to protect both Keller and herself from an untoward incident that could arise on George's arrival to their house. Oh, now, Madi Kangeva, Maggie, Kate, Masaman Kangeva, oh, I husband's guilty or go have a dog, Kate Kangeva. Oh, now, Mana Christa, I am some part I got. My husband, Magaza, untoward, have the palm, the total have a dialogue. But Tolopi, George Lack, Nina, George Diver, Steve Diver, Masanupa. And get a brother called the problem Matolopia say Kate in Gitam Posable on the Manamams of Pada, Chichaluko, Chinasico having Hireman, Ntareko, on the Palm the Batulum Tolopia, George Lapocanda, Aduna, Manamams of Padua, Aika, and give a bagazine, Seno, Injalu having home. Next point. Instead of encouraging Keller to face his responsibilities, Kate supports him in the complicity of covering up her husband's crime. Oh, now, Kate should have an opinion higher in her hope. Mas a motherly opinion, kind of opinion, jovial opinion. Massimam were my husband to do Magunam Chelico, Mazuko, fatherly oipa, kind of palm. Admina Kate to Adum to Piamanico. Adubo, Adumino even the pure Gazumana, my husband crime, the lotion cover up the Atuga, Mana, Steve Diver, in a same way. My Steve Diver, my native Kangana, Mana, my husband, jail sang regular, jail sang regular, got jail, suddenly at the heavy monk, the Mana, my husband crime, Joe, Losan of one of the much of the down lower. And they got on that body, Kate Keller to perfect with a subi out of a human being and the might subile, got much crime, ama, the Mazu Mating Amore, accessory to a crime, I have to go big side of the next slide. When Chris threatens to leave home with Anne, she plays her filial card. Filial is the love that a mother has for their children. Mama ga masaga gi nushinabugi relationship filial card to prevent the marriage, which will signal the end of her home. Oh no, Chris na ay yum the roy ay Anne gal chakrake habaganda mana ay sinangi namani ko habitat. And I go adugi trump card habitat last time I card to sinaraga mana. Agi Salpadu Luhong to Nabina, prevent on the Luhong to prevent on the name. Hana reasoning to we are the command Hajab, Larry Halakini, Larry Halakini, highlighted the reason we are the Kanda, finally mana filial card, everything. I know when in the money the Magichan having a relationship to the card to Sinaraga, mana, Mary so calm the Bohone. And they go. Next slide. Wants Joe to confess his mistake and tell Chris that he is ready to pay the penalty for his crime. Which he thinks would satisfy her son and he would forgive him. Oh no, Joe, my husband Joe, my granddaughter, Mana, I do, Salama granddaughter, I do. Krishna don't forgive Dr. Jay Kalagamana, grand, I do honey, Losala no, and Mana, my husband advice be Sanupada, I do, Sanupana Kangan Jerson, the Sanupana Nanga do not be having more higher. Kate's refusal to Chris and Anne's marriage, even after several requests, compels Anne to show her Larry's letter to save her future union with Chris. Oh no, Kate na hanjan cause from the Chris ka Anne ka luhong ke have ka naman tingba sumto ko dagi magi delusional ba ko wakan hong daba asu wakan do have dai ko aran ba wakan do hong daba dagi last ne ba Larry gi chithi to ko Anne na losala ka tamam bani ko hana Anne sinaram de su ai plot to dum haigra bani ko last Anne na Larry to secret have gi proof to magi chithi to have dai ko last Kate utunyem because Anne ju magi relationship with Chris to kaning bani na ko somda mana sumagi mother sina Kate sina ko Chris mama Kate sina dum Larry to no halakini na bani luhong danu na bani luhong mo ta Larry ngai wo hen sum hai le ragati problem to mo gi engagement mo gi relationship to problem re khang ba deki and ju last magi Larry ki chithi to Kate utunyem ko do muncho. Next slide classic. And the version under Larry ka relationship eramba kona Chris ka Larry ko Steve Divergina masanupi George Divergina sister. Anne Deaver, daughter of Steve Deaver, business partner of Joe, surfaces in the play in Act 1, and described by Jim, Frank, and Keller as beautiful and intelligent. Beautiful as well as intelligent of an opinion described of it. After exchange of several letters, Anne and Chris are in love, and Anne comes to the Keller household on Chris's invitation to propose marriage to her. Oh no, Chris na somda lao haraga mana kauraga mapani nushinabadagi ko Krishna and the lao have the malak aduga luhongbagi plan tawsi ko ko next step relationship next step to the plan tawsi. Firm in her belief that Larry will not come back and does not agree with Kate's view that Larry is still alive. So she ko na worry to or play to ko na study to pakan ko aluram dai da ko na idea to la kari no man si thaja trije som da Kate na di yamna jet na haiba tare ko mai sa na pal Larry to no ma tro no ma la kini na che na thaja bam le ko Kate the labor do end the late in the regulation no en na kari no man si zaramba no pa do halloween na kangi sikin no kan si thi no ma mo ka le ona and the move on to and tare ko to Larry ki mama Kate move on to ngam te delusional world view on the lady. Anne shares Chris's idealism and righteousness and shunned her father, Steve Deaver, after he was found guilty in supplying defective cylinder heads to army. And the Chriska wakalo money. Excuse me. Relationship to growth of Amagi to Maram growth of Gimaram Amazon. Mana magi mapado ko and yung positive diverse guilty or cylinder heads faulty or defective or cylinder heads provided with the guilty or and majil sa makata and na may mapaze santo wire that the avoid to ignore to ante ko mapa or gazu mana may mapaze kahitare support to ngam gidi ante ko nang sumanya nala mabani na ko man mapado mana nang so to maginan jilsang intoroga and na sawe mapado ko ignore to embarrassed to meet Keller's neighbors as she remembers neighbors calling her father and family murderers and does not want to face humiliation again. Ona mananisani ko magi family as well as magi father da magi neighbors sing na mihat pa murderers and call the ko na man ikai se Keller gi neighbors sing je man na ni khan ba mo na ikai ba hangoi bang phause ko man ningsang mo ko last time la ba kan ta agi father na maram uraga ko agi family agi father da mo na murderers kind of lorok pa Jerangpa Karim Katana Raputo, I amuka nothing, the patiently tries to convince Kate to allow her to marry Chris and not make him feel guilty of intention to marry merely because he believes that Larry is alive. On the mana, convinced some of the Kona Zeko Kate. Tamzai the Tareko. I Chris Mamani is long the Bible. Duga, Kagino Abakanda, some of the Christmasum, my Mamai Watale, the brother Halakini Haragadi, Christusum, wise at the bomb pony, the Mana Dudo, to the mind Manazoni. And they go, Makino Kanda, Kennedy, I guess on Valerito, no much of Halakini to Kale in the go, Sonda, and the Tama Honazebo. Lerito Halaroi, my Haraman convinced of them. Convinced of putting them get on the last, Chitidolo than the command kids convinced of them. Next slide. George Deaver is a major character. Steve Deaver's son, George, a lawyer by profession and a veteran of the Second World War. Mama Saju, George Deaver Masamotsu, veteran, have the land Salubami have lawyer joy as a veteran joy World War II or Second World War. Mazu idealistic, Chris Kumban have a direct Mazo. Being idealistic, George disowns father, and Manamai Mapaga, Marie Kemtele and Dreka, Mana Kanjara. Feeling disgusted with his father's shameful offense. So, George Yamna Ikai of Hogi, I'm a part of guilty or have a kind of commander. Beraka, Berato, by Tarako, defective Weba, cylinder head syndrome, Mapaduna, army, the provider with the gi. Army officer habitat or army, soldier could not toy, see Hibagimaranda to George now to get to Kanganina, Mana, my Pazi, Amnan White about Tutsabam Pogi. However, George gets to know about the truth of the defective cylinder case and the cunningness of Keller. Adubu Konadi, George Tamatama come to the Manama Padu jail, the Gunner Pukantapa, Chumbo Tamatama come to him. Head horror the Goma, a good father said, I'm the Pato Nico, I'm not Pisana and the Marugo in Kanpa, Pisada Chop, Habitat, Pisana, priority Nikan, Panico, Kalambado, or the demand Chumbo come to them. Oh, Banana Tico Lalise. A sing but the single Lalicity, Joe Keller Nico. aduga koi baba da tainaraga ai father da tainaraga moina koi ai father si jela thamdan ko na George na ko na khangatu ne adugi da makta ne mana Keller gi mem da laktu information to pura ko arrives at the Keller's house to prevent Anne's marriage with Chris and bring her back to New York. Mana Keller magi sister ga Chris ka luhong mo mana prevent ning luhong dem because mana khange oh no ye family na ni ko koi father da tainaraga koi father ji bu jela nan jin to mana Anne je New York to mu plan na pai ngi to ne thangani ko next slide let's see. George is tactful in dealing with Keller. Instead of showing his fury towards him, he talks to him calmly, inquiring about his needs. So, George na mana khang ni ko. Ye to po this hobby na tra. Na ye father to the balna I would ko blame. Sisa laga father jela hen bani nang so da free man na mo ni ni kan mana hobby ba. Do ma jam sing ye. Thankful hare da di mi loina ba da sing ba I would in tare ko. Tanja men ja khang do na mana ya ta na ga pusin hang do ye man. The ping on the Sokodaga, nang the Maramu, the partner Jelly kind of mana, Joe Keller take the George alleges Chris of pretending to be ignorant despite knowing about the fraud that his father had committed. Accuses Kat of hiding the facts that she knew about her husband. Sidamana claim Anito, Amana Lali, Amana Chumiko. Sidamana, George Tama Chris is Masoiva. Nangi, father na Suivaja, Nang Kanga of Sab, ignorant of Sab, pretending to be ignorant. Nangi father na Suivata Toba, Nangi father na Bera Toba, defective of a cylinder, as on the Nanga Kayan Kamudu. Aduga, Mana, Keton Jalaga, Nanju Kangani, Nangi husband na Toba Tokunam Kamudu, Dragamana, Keller household, the Mana. And the whole family the mass holding him. Arguing about the truth of the case with Chris, George leaves no stone unturned to prove Keller's involvement in the case, but fails to convince Chris. On the mana, Chris Kamaga Marie Kunga, Hawaii Kundoma Wakanda, George Hydureva. Adubu, Man Hyduragazu, Christy Matazabagam Gideon. Christy Wakando Hongan Banam Gitabatani. Because Maram do I'm a Hydeko. Christy Wakandadi, Christy Wakalundadi, and her father's young the pani. Yamna perfect with the pani. Whether still on the terms of the Goyam along with the terms of Nina, from the George and Lakanda, Sundula Hagopan, Chrissy Tazabang, with father another way to do, with father to my torment. They was a little lay. And Georgena, so the convinced of the one of a laptop, Chris convinced of the Gideon. Next slide. Dr. Jim Bayless. The Gideon minor characters in the Ove and the Lobi. And I got was it Paul with the Aquina, Joe Keller, Chris Keller. Kat Keller have my husband in Lorna and Differ, I'm assuming George Differ, Simeon Quina, major characters in Logical, Cookie, all my sons have a place here. Dr. Jim Bellis and others, minor characters Karyawi, Karado in Kangala, we discussed on the because minor characters or Adum important role with low being as Hanamada, Dr. Jim Bellis, seizing aside, Chrissy character analysis over conduct characterizes over conduct, then can the record, then put no means this slide on dedicated to Dr. Jim is Sue's husband and a close friend and neighbor of Joe Keller. Joe Keller is a family neighbor of Nikomasa. Sue is the husband. He does not want his son to become a doctor like himself because he believes that doctors do not have a high income like film actors. On a practical film actor high income individual of the whole doctors in the limit doctor. Excuse me. Jim shows his concern for Kate after a disturbed Chris leaves the house, assuring her that he will not come back. Jim mana Kate Kidamata no item will the mana Chris Nagamayum Tadosa Kibukanda mana Kate to mana a console to be and my neighbor to mana console to be. Jim Bayless has an idealistic notion that is awakened by Chris, inspired by him. So the hanging is a Mamma Jogako. Jim Bayless is a medical practitioner. Adubo mana Chris Kapundagi, Chris Kawari Sam to give higher. I wakanda. Oh, I know medical practice torga Pisata Mudi, medical research torga, society, Samaski, Abatariko. Panabata in pain, my wakan to them. Other than never mind the penis sound with and I got because my opinion lucrative for Pisato by Abatariko. Career Magi, practice over practicing doctor who had near. Ona. Suna, Chris to the women moms or do it never. Taking out that Sugi welcome the deal. Jim Bayless, Maggie husband, Chris Injelaga, Maggie Pisatopa, about 200 million conceal. The Mamadu Unico, Uncle to Nicolabut. Next slide, the last character means Sue Bellis. Sina Dr. Jim Bellis' wife. Jim's wife, Sue Bellis, a practical and jovial woman. Practical way that the reality do idealistic way to Magi husband and idealistic way. Chris Hoyna, and Deaver Hoy, Chris Keller and Deaver, Dr. Jim Bellis, when idealistic character in this category. Sue Bellis, the practical opinion, and jovial woman is about 40 years old, say 40 Musureko. She never lets her husband go out of her sight for longer than she can help. My husband, Sue knows the truth about Joe Keller and also reveals the neighborhood's awareness about Keller having manipulated the court's acquittal, yet continue to share the relation of close friends with the Keller. The practical way we can like soon go, man practicality have a man kang Joe Keller say guilty way have come neighborhood na aware way and they call Joe Keller na bribe to man manipulation to court ki forgiveness have a acquittal to pang given have to makang bakanda adu shumana losala thamne Joe Keller friendly relationship to maintain to the by entire khatas thinks Chris is a hypocrite, enjoying all the comforts of life, taking money from his father's business, despite knowing his father had earned it dishonestly. Honestly, the name saying to high recommend. Manakali, my neighbor Chris Seko, Joe Keller, Cat Keller himself, Chris say hypocrite. Hypocrite, Haragadi, Nam Namangamba, Namato, you want to get advice and period of Masanti advice of follow to Som the mana, Krishna, Dr. Jim Bellis, Shugi husband the call, by medical practice ki muhutta medical research in to kind advice people medical practice na hen episode to ni ko medical research te ona suna sawe somda nangna ai husband da my advice pi adu nangna sati nangi father gi ko lan na earn to give money ko yamna soina ko yamna mi bu wiki at the cost of human life have that ko and give money to enjoy to le adu ka nangna kuidna chata lu chata le mo ta samas ki seva to ina hai nang nasamang na bisa mo ay natalaga hay na handle ko man magi Chris woman hypocrite ni na low episode hintay ko next slide let's Frank Luby si jo minor character ni ko Frank Luby is Lydia's husband and a friend and neighbor of Joe Keller komachun neighbor man ko he is 32 years of age but already getting involved just a so description have type a practical man like Keller Frank had earned a good deal of money by property transaction maju practical Sigi characters may be some are practical, some are idealistic. Practical is satellite of Frank Luby heavy characters. He believes in astrology and by insisting that Larry's horoscope could reveal the truth, he gives Kate's hopes of Larry's survival life. Mama sama never got. Some the Kate Namay Sanpa Halakini have it Tazabaza, see the how happy Habitat and got Mansu instantly by Habitat in a way. Some the Kate na with already a delusion, still lay in a Jum Solar and support of live for Halakidoni. Adumana Sugumba, Kate the Zoo, Heisen Bitabani, Habitareko, Kate Kiwakan Tabagi, Marmom Zoation. And I got sin. So, some of the Orsigom. In this unit, we have discussed the major and minor characters of the play All My Sons in detail. See the major characters of the summarize the Joe Keller later. That must know. Chris Keller, Cat Keller, and Deaver, Amasung, George Deaver. Masimiam to the major characters. Aduga, minor characters like Dr. Jim Bellis, Sue Bellis, Frank Luby, so the minor characters. Minor characters is again very yaw, but they are relevant with the game of the so Masini Aquina characterization. Characters in the in-depth discussion, in-depth analysis of the current character no personality combined to me, trait come Muguncheli, Moja practical idealistic kind of discussed those. Masini character analysis, not a characterization. So that's all for today. Masida can talk about clear with the next class to come. We know what being much locally out the so I would like to end the lecture here for today, and I will see you in the next class.